Down, down, down with deportation. That's what Kamala Harris was chanting in a newly resurfaced video. Donald Trump tweeted out the footage from a video taken in a January 2018 parade for which Harris served as Grand Marshal of the 33rd Annual Kingdom Day Parade, meant to celebrate the legacy of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let's watch.
Deportation, up with education, down, down with 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 deportation, up with education, down, down.
The Daily Mail was first to obtain that video, which shows Harris chanting the progressive slogan. Her 2018 protest against deportation contradicts some positions she's taken since getting in the 2024 race. So, for example, she stresses her support for the bipartisan Senate proposal earlier this year, and that, among other things, would have increased funding for border security. It would also have funded a mechanism to limit asylum entries into the United States. Immigration is something of an Achilles heel for Harris, and that may be why she is travelling to the border on Friday. The Friday visit will be her first one since jumping into the race.
And beyond just changing her position on deportation, she has been a part of the administration which has presided over plenty of deportations. I mean, there's actually tremendous continuity in the immigration policy, the deportations between, Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden. There's only AOC crying over kids in cages when it's Republicans in charge, but when you find out that actually some of those photos or some policies were in place before and were in place and after, no one seems to care, or the mainstream media doesn't focus on it enough. Yeah, tons of deportation. I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but if there's been some marked change in the percentage of deportations, I've missed it. I don't think there has been. I think it's broadly continuing to do a certain level of deportation. Not nearly enough for conservatives, but more than the progressive left wants done.
Sure. I mean, this is obviously an attempt by Harris to sort of toughen up her position. She doesn't want those kind of visual reminders of positions that she once held to get terribly wide circulation. And it is part of a piece where it is difficult for her to square the positions that she now has on a number of issues with positions she previously held. Now, of course, Donald Trump has switched position on various things over the years. Also, not immigration, but various other things like universal health care, abortion, etc. The problem here for Harris is there is, as we said in the introduction, a real weakness here, politically speaking. When immigration is tested in opinion polls, typically Donald Trump has about a 20-point advantage over Harris. There's a very big gulf there that I think speaks to voter concern about the topic. I have never been one of the people to argue from a liberal perspective that immigration doesn't matter or should be cast aside. There is clearly a legitimate issue there. Yes, there is some demagoguery around it for sure, but that doesn't mean the issue itself is an invalid one to have concerns about.
I don't want the government to go door to door and round up everyone who is here illegally, because that would be massively invasive. That would end up violating Americans' civil liberties. It would be economically disruptive because we do rely on plenty of immigrant labor, and it would cost tons of money to do all the police work. So I don't want that. I want more deportation of criminals or of people who are not working or not contributing or are taking advantage of the welfare system to the extent that's taking place. We can deport all of them and then have more border security. That's what I want. And even that, I think, is a standpoint that is a little bit to the left of where the American public is on average. The American public does seem to want a heavy level of deportation. I mean, they're not alongside that activist slogan at all. According to public opinion polling and support for Donald Trump's position on this, they want stronger action taken by the federal government on immigration. Now, I think it's better and easier to stem the flow of illegal migrants across the southern border than to deal with the people we already have here, because again, the police cost of doing surveillance and figuring that out, it can be done. It's just very expensive and is going to be irritating even for law-abiding Americans. You're like, always remember Patriot Act stuff. You think this is just going to be for the terrorists or for the bad guys or the lawbreakers. It always ends up being a huge burden on all of us, and the police the law enforcement uses whatever mechanisms they come up with to do this to surveil all of American society.
I think that one of the things that I would say on the point of public opinion is American public opinion, in my view, is a bit more nuanced in immigration than it's often given credit for. You know, tends to be conservatives say, well, everybody's opposed this and wants everyone thrown out. Liberals tend to say, oh, well, everyone accepts and honours the fact that we're a nation of immigrants. In fact, if you look at things like the Dreamers, I think there is actually a fairly wide acceptance that people brought to the country as children shouldn't really be penalised for an action that they themselves had no control over, i.e. being brought over the border when they were 4 years old or something. And so there is a reasonable level of support for legalising those people. Now, when you have separately from that people crossing the border in great numbers, claiming asylum, yes, they have a legal right to claim asylum, but those numbers have spiked to such an extent that it is a common sense supposition that a lot of those people are trying to game the asylum system. And I think that is, in fact, reasonably well understood in both respects.
It's because the asylum system is the easiest way to get in right now. We have made the system such that claiming asylum is the easiest way to get in and stay in, and so people for whom that designation really ought not to apply are using that to get in because that's the easiest way. Which ends up having that be, so it is being abused, but there are people that we do want to come in, even who wouldn't be able to claim asylum, to do work, to do jobs that people want them to do. And I mean, on some levels, the government getting in the way, saying, I want to work for you, I want you to work for me, here's what I want to pay you, that's acceptable. We both consent, we're going to create some value for the American economy, and the government saying, I don't consent to that, that's no good. like as a libertarian, that annoys me because where people want to trade their labor for money and people have a labor need, to the extent the government gets in that way, it creates inefficiencies and it wrecks our whole economy. But we can't just have people coming in that are that are not contributing or not able to work. Now, if we were able to legalize a greater category of these people, it would be easier for them to do work and pay taxes and do all the rest. But the process is just so, we actually do need Congress to act and make it simpler so that we can have people coming here legally and you wouldn't get as much of the illegal immigration.
Well, that is the point, and I think, there is fairly widespread agreement that the immigration system does need fundamental reforming. There are obviously very heated debates about why that should be, and there is, I think, a genuine concern among both parties that their opponents would prefer to have the problem to make political mileage from than a reasonable resolution of it. And so you can, from the Conservative or Republican side, there is a motivation to keep people fired up about immigration. From the Democratic side, there's a motivation to paint Republicans as nativist or as racist. And so those arguments are sort of fueled by the lack of a solution.
We'll be back with more Rising right after this.